They mocked the quiet new kid until his hidden powers left them speechless. Ryan Wang stood in front of his locker at Westridge High School, trying to make himself as small as possible. At 15, he was already used to the routine. Keep your head down, avoid eye contact, and maybe, just maybe, you'll make it through the day unnoticed. It wasn't that Ryan was particularly small. At 5'8" and slightly chubby, he was average in most respects. But there was something about being the new kid, especially one who preferred books to sports and quiet contemplation to loud socializing, that made him an instant target. 3 weeks into the school year, and Ryan had already mapped out the danger zones of Westridge High. The main hallway between third and fourth period was treacherous. The back corner of the cafeteria was a no-go zone, and the boys' locker room before gym class, that was essentially entering the lion's den. Today, Ryan was running late. His mother's car had broken down, forcing him to take the bus, which had then hit every red light possible on the way to school. By the time he reached his locker, the hallway was nearly empty, a fact that should have been a relief but instead sent a chill down his spine. Empty hallways meant no witnesses. Well, 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 look who decided to grace us with his presence today. The voice belonged to Darius Wilson, a junior who seemed to have made tormenting Ryan his personal mission since day one. At 6 feet tall with broad shoulders from years of football, Darius physically dominated the space. Flanking him were his usual sidekicks, Tyler Moore, lean and quick with a sharp tongue, and Marcus Jenkins, built like a linebacker with a permanent sneer. Ryan kept his eyes on his locker, methodically arranging his books as if they were the most fascinating objects in the world. Just ignore them. They'll get bored eventually. I'm talking to you, Wang. Darius slammed Ryan's locker shut, nearly catching his fingers. Didn't your parents teach you it's rude to ignore people? Ryan took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the floor. I'm going to be late for class. This elicited a chorus of mocking laughter. Tyler stepped forward, his voice pitched high in a cruel imitation. I'm going to be late for class. Heaven forbid the teacher's pet misses a minute of learning. What's in the backpack, Wang? More books? Marcus reached for Ryan's bag, yanking it off his shoulder. The zipper was open, and several books spilled out onto the floor, including a dog-eared copy of The Art of War that Ryan's grandfather had given him before they'd moved. The Art of War? Darius picked up the book, flipping through it with exaggerated confusion. What are you planning, Wang, to bore us to death with ancient Chinese wisdom? What Darius didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Ryan's grandfather wasn't just an avid reader. He was Master Wang Wei, a renowned practitioner of Wing Chun Kung Fu who had trained celebrities and military personnel in his younger days. And for the past 10 years, he had been training Ryan. Not that Ryan would tell them that. His grandfather had been clear. Kung Fu is for protection, not intimidation. A true master doesn't need to announce his strength. So Ryan said nothing as Darius tossed the book back onto the pile with a dismissive snort. Nothing to say? Typical. Darius gave Ryan a hard shove, sending him back against the lockers with a metallic clang. See you at lunch, Wang. Save me. A seat. The trio walked away, high-fiving and laughing as they disappeared around the corner. Ryan gathered his scattered books, his movements methodical and precise. Inside, a familiar heat bubbled, not just anger, but shame. Shame that he allowed this to happen. Shame that despite his training, despite knowing he could probably take all 3 of them in a fight, he chose to remain silent and passive. Grandfather would say I'm making the wise choice, Ryan thought as he headed to his first class. But would he really? The cafeteria at Westridge High was a social battlefield with clearly defined territories. The athletes claimed the center tables, surrounded by the popular crowd. Band and theater kids clustered near the stage door, the studious types huddled near the windows, books open even during lunch. Ryan had found a quiet corner near the emergency exit, a location chosen for its strategic advantages, close to an escape route, partially obscured by a large trash can, found far enough from the main table clusters to avoid casual notice. But today, as he unpacked his homemade lunch of dumplings and rice, he felt the weight of eyes on him. Looking up, he saw Darius and his crew making their way directly toward his table, trays in hand. Not here, not now. Ryan quickly packed up his food, but he wasn't fast enough. Going somewhere, Wang? Darius dropped his tray on the table with a clatter. But we just got here and something smells. He leaned over, sniffing dramatically at Ryan's lunch. Interesting. Tyler slid onto the bench across from Ryan, his smile all teeth. What is that? Dog food? They're dumplings, Ryan said quietly. My mum made them. Mummy still packs your lunch? Marcus laughed, taking a seat beside Tyler. How cute. Ryan remained silent, weighing his options. The cafeteria was full. There were witnesses, including a couple of teachers on lunch duty, but they were across the room, and in his experience, they rarely intervened unless things got physical. Darius reached over and picked up one of Ryan's dumplings with his fingers. "Let's see if it tastes as weird as it looks." He took a bite, his face immediately contorting in exaggerated disgust. "Ugh, what is this crap?" He spat the food back onto Ryan's tray. A hot flush crept up Ryan's neck. Those dumplings were his favorite. His mother had woken up early to make them from scratch using his grandmother's recipe. "Please leave me alone," Ryan said, his voice steady despite the anger coursing through him. "I'm not bothering anyone." "Your existence bothers me," Darius replied, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Your weird food bothers me. Your stupid books bother me. Everything about you just bothers me." In one swift motion, Darius knocked Ryan's tray to the floor, sending dumplings, rice, and soy sauce splattering across the linoleum. The cafeteria fell momentarily silent before breaking into scattered laughter and murmurs. Ryan felt dozens of eyes on him, witnessing his humiliation but doing nothing to stop it. In that moment, something shifted inside him. A memory surfaced, his grandfather's voice during one of their training sessions. "The true purpose of Wing Chun is not to initiate conflict, but to end it decisively when necessary." Was it necessary now? Not yet, but soon, perhaps. Ryan stood up silently, grabbed his backpack and walked away from the mess without a word, ignoring the chorus of jeers that followed him. "That's right, run away," Darius called after him. "Just like always." As Ryan pushed through the cafeteria doors, he caught a glimpse of Ms. Patel, his English teacher, watching with a concerned expression. But like everyone else, she did nothing. Outside in the hallway, Ryan leaned against the wall, his heart pounding. For years, his grandfather had taught him not just physical techniques, but mental discipline. "Control your emotions, or they will control you," he would say during their training sessions. Right now, Ryan's emotions were a storm threatening to break through his carefully constructed dam of restraint. One day, he promised himself, one day they'll push too far, and then they'll see. Little did he know that day was coming sooner than he expected. 2 weeks passed, and the harassment continued. Ryan found crude drawings in his textbooks. His gym clothes mysteriously disappeared during PE, forcing him to participate in his regular clothes and earn detention for being unprepared. Someone, he didn't need 3 guesses to figure out who, had even managed to slip raw fish into his locker, leaving it to rot over a weekend. Through it all, Ryan maintained his composure. Each night, he trained harder in the small apartment. He shared with his mother and grandfather, channeling his frustration into perfecting his form. His grandfather noticed the increased intensity, but asked no questions. He simply adjusted the training, pushing Ryan further, as if sensing his grandson's growing need for both skill and restraint. It was a rainy Thursday when everything changed. Ryan was in the school library during his free period, working on a history assignment in a quiet corner. He'd chosen the spot carefully, hidden by tall bookshelves near a side exit, with a clear view of the main entrance so he couldn't be surprised, or so he thought. He didn't notice Darius, Tyler, and Marcus enter from the back door normally, used only by staff. By the time he sensed their presence, they had already surrounded his table. "Studying hard, Wang?" Darius asked, his voice falsely friendly. "You know, we've got a big history test tomorrow, and we could really use some assistance." Ryan looked up, his face expressionless. "I'm busy," Tyler snickered. "He's busy, guys. Guess we'll have to convince him to make time for his friends." Friends. The word felt like acid. Marcus grabbed Ryan's notebook. "Let's see what you've got here. Bet it's perfect, just like all your other work." Ryan remained still, though his muscles tensed automatically. They were in the library. Surely they wouldn't try anything physical here. Ms. Rivera, the librarian, was strict about maintaining order in her domain. But Ms. Rivera, he realized with a sinking feeling, was nowhere to be seen. Probably in her office or helping someone in another section. Darius leaned in close, his breath hot on Ryan's ear. "Here's how this is going to work, Wang. You're going to write out cheat sheets for us, small enough to hide during the test. You're going to include all the important dates, events, everything, and you're going to make 3 copies." "No," Ryan said, the word out before he could consider the consequences. Silence fell over the group. Darius straightened, his expression hardening. "What did you just say?" "I said no." Ryan's voice was quiet, but firm. "I won't help you cheat." Tyler's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Marcus exchanged a look with Darius, who seemed momentarily taken aback by the refusal. Then Darius smiled, a cold, calculating smile that didn't reach his eyes. Wrong answer, Wang. He grabbed Ryan's history textbook and began tearing pages out, crumpling them and dropping them to the floor. Stop it, Ryan said, rising from his chair. Make me, Darius challenged, continuing to destroy the book. Something inside Ryan snapped, not in a wild, uncontrolled way, but like a lock finally releasing after too much pressure. His grandfather had always said that knowing when to fight was as important as knowing how. This was when. With movements too quick for the bullies to follow, Ryan's hand shot out, gripping Darius's wrist in a precise hold that cut off blood flow to the fingers. The textbook fell from suddenly numb hands. What the? Darius began, his expression shifting from smugness to confusion. Ryan released him with a slight push that, due to the precise angle and timing, sent Darius stumbling back several steps. I said stop, Ryan repeated, his voice still calm but carrying a new edge that made all three bullies pause. The moment hung in the air, fragile and charged. Then Marcus, never one for subtlety, lunged forward with a wild swing aimed at Ryan's head. What happened next would later become legendary at Westridge High, repeated, embellished, but never quite capturing the fluid grace with which Ryan sidestepped the punch, caught Marcus's extended arm, and used the larger boy's momentum to send him crashing into a nearby bookshelf. Books cascaded down as Marcus struggled to regain his balance, his face a mask of shock and dawning fear. Tyler, seeing his friend manhandled so easily, hesitated, but Darius, his pride wounded and his authority challenged, came at Ryan with renewed fury. You're dead, Wang. Ryan assumed the Wing Chun stance, weight centered, hands positioned to protect his centerline, relaxed yet ready. As Darius charged, Ryan didn't retreat but stepped forward into the attack, his movements economic and precise. A series of quick strikes, too fast for onlookers to fully process, left Darius gasping on his knees, not seriously injured but thoroughly defeated. The entire confrontation had taken less than 30 seconds. A small crowd of students had gathered at the commotion, their expressions a mix of shock, awe, and vindicated satisfaction. Among them was Lillian Nguyen, a quiet girl from Ryan's English class, who had herself been on the receiving end of the trio's cruelty. What is going on here? Ms. Rivera appeared, her face flushed with anger. Fighting in my library, all of you, to the principal's office now. Ryan didn't resist as she escorted all four boys out, though he noticed with some satisfaction that Ms. Rivera kept a respectful distance from him, her earlier confidence in her authority over him visibly shaken. Word spread through Westridge High like wildfire. By the time the final bell rang, everyone had heard some version of how Ryan Wang, the quiet new kid, had taken down Darius Wilson and his cronies without breaking a sweat. Principal Matthews was a balding man with perpetually tired eyes and a reputation for strict fairness. He listened to all four boys give their accounts of what happened in the library, his expression neutral. Mr. Wang, he said finally, turning to Ryan, these three claim you attacked them unprovoked. Yet, Miss Rivera tells me she found torn pages from a textbook at the scene, and several witnesses report seeing them approach you first. Would you care to explain what happened? Ryan met the principal's gaze steadily. They've been bullying me since I arrived. Today, they tried to force me to help them cheat. When I refused, Darius began destroying my textbook. I asked him to stop. He didn't. I defended myself and my property. Principal Matthews nodded slowly, then turned to Darius. Mr. Wilson, given your disciplinary record and the witness statements, I'm inclined to believe Mr. Wang's version of events. You and your friends will serve 2 weeks of detention, and you'll replace the damaged textbook. Darius started to protest, but the principal held up a hand. Additionally, I'm removing all 3 of you from the upcoming football game. Perhaps that will give you time to reflect on your behavior. Darius's face darkened with anger. My father's on the school board. He won't. Your father, Principal Matthews interrupted, has already been called. He expressed his disappointment and fully supports these consequences. He turned back to Ryan. Mr. Wang, while I understand you were provoked, physical altercations are against school policy. You'll serve 3 days of detention. Ryan nodded, accepting the punishment without complaint. It seemed fair, and frankly, he'd expected worse. One more thing, Principal Matthews added. Where did you learn to defend yourself like that? For the first time since the incident, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. My grandfather taught me. He believes everyone should know how to protect themselves. Wise man, the principal murmured. You're all dismissed. As they left the office, Ryan could feel Darius's glare burning into his back. The battle might be over, but he suspected the war was just beginning. He was wrong. By the following morning, the dynamic at Westridge High had shifted dramatically. As Ryan walked down the main hallway, students parted like the Red Sea, some nodding in respect, others watching warily. A few even smiled or gave him subtle thumbs up. At lunch, he was approached by Jason Kim, captain of the school's martial arts club. "That was some impressive Wing Chun yesterday," Jason said, sliding into the seat across from Ryan. "We could use someone with your skills on the team." Ryan looked up in surprise. "How did you know it was Wing Chun?" Jason grinned. "My uncle runs a dojo downtown. I recognize the style. So, you interested?" For the first time since arriving at Westridge, Ryan found himself considering a social invitation. "Maybe I'd have to ask my grandfather." "Cool, let me know." Jason left with a friendly wave, leaving Ryan to process this unexpected turn of events. Throughout the day, similar interactions occurred. People who had never spoken to him before suddenly knew his name. Teachers looked at him differently, with a mix of concern and newfound respect. Even more surprising was the reaction of Darius's usual victims. Lily Nguyen approached him between classes, her eyes bright with something like hope. "Thank you," she said simply, "for standing up to them. No one ever does." Ryan felt a flush of embarrassment. "I didn't do it for anyone else. I just got tired of being pushed around." "Still," Lily insisted, "it matters. It shows the rest of us it's possible." As the days passed, Ryan noticed other changes. Darius and his friends kept their distance, their previous bravado replaced by sullen avoidance. In the cafeteria, the social boundaries began to blur slightly, as students felt less constrained by the hierarchy Darius had enforced. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after the library incident, Ryan was surprised to find Tyler waiting for him after school, alone. "Can we talk?" Tyler asked, his usual cockiness notably absent. Ryan tensed, prepared for some kind of ambush. "About what?" "I wanted to say." Tyler seemed to struggle with the words. "I was wrong. About you. About a lot of things." He shifted uncomfortably. "Darius and Marcus still want payback, but I'm done with that whole scene. It's exhausting being angry all the time." Ryan studied Tyler's face, looking for deception, but finding only weary sincerity. "Okay, that's it? Just okay?" Ryan shrugged. "What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? I don't know if I do yet, but I accept your apology, if that's what that was." Tyler nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He turned to leave, then paused. "Those dumplings your mom makes, they're actually really good. My mom's Filipino, and she makes something similar. I was just, going along with Darius." With that surprising confession, Tyler walked away, leaving Ryan to reconsider yet another of his assumptions. By the time winter break approached, Ryan's life at Westridge had transformed. He wasn't exactly popular, but he was respected, not just for his fighting skills, but for how he'd used them. He'd joined the martial arts club, made a few genuine friends, and even started having lunch with Lily and her group regularly. Darius and Marcus maintained their distance, though Ryan occasionally caught them watching him with a mixture of resentment and reluctant respect. The bullying had stopped, not just for him, but for many of the previously targeted students. It was as if Ryan's stand had broken some unspoken spell, revealing the power dynamics for the fragile constructs they really were. On the last day before break, Ryan found himself alone in the gym after martial arts club practice. As he was packing up his gear, the door opened, and Darius walked in. Ryan immediately shifted his stance, prepared for confrontation. Darius noticed and held up his hands. "I'm not here to fight. Coach made me come." "Coach?" "Yeah. Said I needed to clear the air with you before break or I'm benched for the season." Darius sighed heavily. "Look, I'm not going to pretend we're going to be friends, but I've been thinking about what happened." Ryan waited, saying nothing. "You could have really hurt me that day. You had the chance, but you didn't." Darius looked genuinely puzzled by this fact. "Why?" The question caught Ryan off guard. He considered it seriously before answering. "My grandfather always says the greatest victory is the one that requires no battle," he said finally. "I didn't want to hurt you, I just wanted you to stop." Darius nodded slowly. "My dad said something similar when he found out what happened, that I'd been fighting the wrong battles for the wrong reasons." He looked down at his hands. "Anyway, I'm supposed to tell you there won't be any more trouble from me, so there won't be." It wasn't an apology exactly, but Ryan sensed it was the closest thing to one that Darius was capable of offering right now. "Okay," Ryan said simply. As Darius turned to leave, Ryan added, "There's room in the martial arts club. If you're interested, Jason's always looking for new members." Darius paused, surprise evident on his face. "You'd be okay with that, after everything?" Ryan thought about his grandfather's teachings, about discipline, respect, and the true, Purpose of martial arts. It's not about fighting. It's about learning control. Might be good for both of us. A ghost of a smile touched Darius's lips. Maybe. I'll think about it. He left, and Ryan finished gathering his things, reflecting on the strange journey of the past few months. When he'd first come to Westridge, all he'd wanted was to be invisible, to get through each day unnoticed and unscathed. Now he realized that true strength wasn't about being unseen or even about physical power. It was about standing your ground, knowing your worth, and refusing to let others define you. As he walked out into the crisp winter air, Ryan felt a sense of peace settle over him. Westridge High was far from perfect, and he knew there would be other challenges ahead. But for the first time since arriving, he felt like he belonged here, not as a victim or even as the guy who took down the school bullies, but simply as Ryan Wang, a student with friends, interests, and a place in the complex social ecosystem, Third High School. His phone buzzed with a text from his grandfather. Training at 6, bringing new techniques. Ryan smiled. Some things never changed, and he wouldn't want them to. 3 months ago, he would have dreaded returning after break, counting the days with anxiety. Now, he found himself looking forward to January, curious about what the new year would bring. As if sensing his thoughts, another text came through. This one from Lily. Movie night at my place tomorrow. Jason and the others are coming. Sounds good, he typed back, his smile widening. The quiet new kid with the hidden strength wasn't so hidden anymore, and surprisingly, that felt exactly right. Well, now I want to know, what's your opinion about this story? Leave a comment, we'd love to hear from you, and tell us which city you watched this video from. And it's not over yet. There's another powerful story playing on your screen right now. Click on it. I'm waiting for you.